at this point, I want to thank you, Mr. Referee, for what you did in Dallas, because all you did was poke the bear named Dan Campbell.
Light the fire.
And we'd gone to a Super Bowl. Huddle up, Lions Nation. It's Tank and Mike for Lions Chalk Talk. You know, Mike, this is going to be a great weekend, but I got to tell you something, okay? I got my brand new Lions helmet on the way. I can't wear it, walk around and just bash into things, because that's what I do. I have the most lovely Lions dinner jackets coming, which we'll unveil next season.
Special
or
order.
at the Super Bowl.
Special order.
Very special order.
Is Cal Juszczyk's wife doing it the way she did Brittany Mahomes and Taylor Swift's jacket? Is that you got the custom jacket?
All sparkled up, baby.
Did you get a number 8 on it?
I don't know number 8.
Maybe a 20.
I don't know number
20.
8.
Maybe a 20 for Barry.
Former Lions quarterback number 8 in your program, number 1 in your heart, Mike McMahon. Former quarterback, Detroit Lions, Tank Tantlinger, former nobody from nowhere. I am so excited for this weekend. Before we get to talking offense, before we get to talking defense, you got to talk about the man, Moses, who's brought them to the promised land. One of your favorites, Coach Dan Campbell.
Well, yeah, Coach Dan Campbell. Obviously, first, Brad Holmes. Brad Holmes was one of the guys that helped bring in Dan Campbell, and I just saw the other day, back in 2002 or 2003, Brad Holmes was reaching out to NFL teams while he was working at a Enterprise Rent-A-Car Center, and eventually got his shot. And now, 18 years later, he is a GM in the playoffs, 1 game away from the NFC Championship. But then he goes on and hires Dan Campbell, a former player. To me, he is the modern-day Bill Cowher. A former player, tight end, played for a no-nonsense coach with Bill Parcells, great offensive genius mind, with Sean Payton coached underneath him as well. Dan Campbell, he hires a lot of former players that have been there before, that know the ins and outs of the NFL, that know that they've been in that position, and that they
How important is that, Mike?
Well, it's huge, because I can remember back many times, and as a player, and I'm like, well, what are we trying to do here? And the guys did not have the answer. Not only did they not play that position, not only did they not play at a high level, they, and that's it. I'm not saying you can't be a great coach if you don't play at a high level or you play that position. I'm saying you can. Obviously, you look at Bill Belichick, he's one of the guys, but his dad was a coach and obviously involved with Navy and all that stuff. So that guy's,
he's wired.
He's an exception, okay?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of guys that I think when you are at that highest level and you get these kids coming from college, because that's what they still are. There are kids that are getting paid a lot of money. They are still kids. They are still going to make mistakes. They are still going to have questions. And the best answer you can provide is if you're there and you've done that before. You've experienced certain situations. You've been in the pocket with guys coming at you. There was times where a coach would be like, hey, just throw it away. Just throw it away. Where do you want me to throw it? If I throw it away, if I'm in the pocket,
with
I
Julius
throw it away, I'm going to get a penalty.
Yeah, or you're going to get killed.
Or it's going to get intercepted. So at some point, you have to say, okay, that's a tough one. You got to eat it, tuck it, protect the football. But no, a lot of the coaches just say the textbook terms, and it's tough. So you look at Dan Campbell. He goes out and he gets Mark Brunell to help coach the quarterbacks. You got Ben Johnson, who's this great offensive mind who coached under Dan for a while. You've got Hank Fraley, who played for the Philadelphia Eagles, was a Pro Bowler, and played with Donovan McNabb, played with Andy Reid. You've got all these great coaches that have played. Then you've got Aaron Glenn on defense. You've got Dre Bly, a former All-Pro cornerback, is coaching the corners. Okay, so you've got all these phenomenal former players that have been there, but also know how to coach and teach. Some players, they can't coach. They can't teach. They just were naturally gifted. And this is not a knock on them. Me personally, I would say Ben Roethlisberger is one of those guys that would probably be like, hey, man, you got to do it. It's like, well, how?
Do what?
Well, how?
Right.
And he was he's very natural. He was a natural.
Don't know how I do it.
Yeah, he worked hard.
Don't know how I do it.
Exactly. And so there's not everyone can really break it down in terms of what you need to do. But a lot of these coaches do. So Dan Campbell goes out and gets a lot of former players. He lets them coach. But the one thing he does is he shows that he truly cares about the players. He is a natural leader. What is a natural leader? You don't ask someone to do anything that you are not willing to do yourself. Absolutely. And when they start training camp every year, that's why he is out there doing the up-downs with the team.
I didn't know that.
And he is out there up-down, blowing the whistle, and he's wearing himself out. But the reason why he does that...
he would put on pads at points, too.
but the reason why he does that is because he wants to show them, look, not only did I do this as a player, but I am still here fighting with you. I am still here doing it with you. And that goes a long way. I know when he was first hired, he came out and gave that speech.
It was a great speech.
We're going to bite the kneecaps on.
Darn right.
And I will say this, I was out coaching, and actually, when I saw the speech, I actually wrote a letter. And I was like, you know what? I wrote him a letter. I don't know if you've ever got it, but I love the speech, love what you're doing. And, if there was any ever a position to be open, I would love to come join you because you motivated me and I would love to be with you. Okay, now I don't know if you ever got it, but whatever. So I'm out there coaching and I'm with some other players, some guys that played with some Steelers in the past, and they're like, man, that was some corny stuff. Players don't like that. Coach Tomlin would never say that. And I thought about it and I was like, it might come off as corny if you don't mean it, if it's fake. Mm-hmm. And that's the one thing Dan Campbell is not. He is not fake. He is truly genuine. And he will push these guys to the limit. He will hold them accountable. He will lift them up and build them up. And I just saw an interview this past week. Sam Laporta was talking. And he said he kind of got manhandled on a block. And all of a sudden, as soon as the whistle blew, he turns to the sideline. He says, I see Coach Campbell's face beat red, yelling. He goes, even if I was across the side of the field, I would have still heard his voice, clear as day. Laporta, you're better than that. Yeah. You're better than that. Yeah. And what that says is he's not calling them, you stink, you're not doing this. He's just saying, listen, I know what your talent is. I know what you're capable of. I know what your effort level is. You can give me more.
Let's get you.
We're there. This is the playoffs. We are fighting. And Laporta was like, well, I kind of felt bad. So when you have a coach that truly cares for you, yes, that message means something. Yep. But if you are faking it as a coach, and you get a lot of guys that are like, this is a business decision. And that's the one thing you see about Dan Campbell. He is a true natural leader that is truly passionate about the game of football and his players.
I live by a lot of rules in my life, and one of them I've told you this, Mike, before. See, when I first meet you, you can tell me whatever you want. You can pretend to be whatever you want. But only time and your actions will tell me who you are. So, Lions fans, 3 short years. Dan Campbell has delivered on what he told us was going to happen. He's got his team poised to go to, I don't want to get past this weekend with the Bucks. He has delivered on what he said.
Well, it's not just Dan Campbell. Again, you have to tie him with Brad Holmes. And it goes back to when you watch both of these guys and they get the draft pick that they want and they show the camera inside the war room, they are celebrating. They are truly excited. You're like, man, they're excited for the year. I mean, this is in April, and they get the draft pick that they want, a few moves here and there, and they see it. A lot of people said, Gibbs, I don't know, man. Let's go get this. Let's go get a D lineman. We need that D lineman. Gibbs is not, and early in the season, Gibbs is not doing anything. Gibbs is not, he's not great. We got Montgomery. We had Swift. And Holmes and Dan Campbell had a vision, and it takes time for a player to develop. And they were patient with Jahmyr Gibbs. And sure enough, they had that little 1-2 punch. And you got David Montgomery, who is a bell cow. He is a workhorse. He pounds it up in there. He is a beast, and he will take on everyone. But then when you go and look at what Jahmyr Gibbs has done after he's been able to slowly start to read those defenses, start to allow the offensive line to set up his blocks, arguably one of the best O-lines in football. You got Hank Fraley, again, back to the former player, Hank Fraley. He's a Pittsburgh guy, went to Robert Morris, by the way.
Yeah, he's taught well then.
Okay, so he is, but you got those O-linemen. That team was built, you had Taylor Decker, Penny Sewell, you got Ragnow, the center. I mean, they've got a phenomenal O-line across the board.
Yes, they do.
You've got a creative,
technically,
you've got a very creative offensive coordinator and Ben Johnson. And then now all of a sudden you got these rookie picks, and you see what Brad Holmes has done. He had a vision, and now Jahmyr Gibbs is making plays. And now people are like, oh, Jahmyr Gibbs is the guy. Let's go buy the jersey. Oh, we didn't hear that early in the season. We wanted that D lineman that went to Philly, but now look where they're at. Okay, now, are they there? Maybe, okay? Look what they did. Look at the changes they made in this past offseason. You know, obviously they built up the offense. They've got this phenomenal offense, but the past offseason, they built up the D-line a little bit. They've got the linebackers.
Great
the run
segue.
game. They're one of the best run.
What happens if Coach Dan Campbell, this genius who's put this team offensively into a beautiful position to, don't say it, go to a Super Bowl. Next year they focus in on the defense.
Well, they got secondary because the run defense right now is phenomenal. I mean, they are stuffing the run. It's just that secondary that you get some explosive plays. But back to what Brad Holmes has done. It's taking some time. It's building. Look, they didn't go out and go get a quarterback when a couple years ago they were talking, go get a quarterback, go get a quarterback. 2 years ago, listen, Jared Goff is a great quarterback. I mean, talk about a story. The guy gets kicked out of L.A. and then beats the guy that L.A. traded for him.
Yeah.
Okay, you gotta love the grit. You gotta love the fight he had in him. Even after they went and picked up, a quarterback in the 3rd round to develop behind him.
Well, if I keep poking you and saying you're no good, you're no good.
Well, he could have folded.
Champion's gonna roll up
but
there. And
they
say,
got
watch
a guy
this.
and he was like, oh well, this guy, he could have been like the writings on the wall, but he didn't fold. He said, listen, I'm still the guy here. I can still do this. We got some great weapons. He does a great job of getting the ball out quick, getting the ball to his receivers. He's got Amon St. Brown.
Oh.
You got Jamison Williams, the lightning speed. You got Josh Reynolds, another former Ram who came over in that trade. They've got a lot of pieces on the offensive side of the football. Are they there defensively? Maybe. Maybe if you get a few breaks. Maybe if the officials make a few good calls.
Don't foul my ears.
But the one thing that you got to look is with Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, how they're tied together. When they go to the draft, they're both excited. They are truly passionate about the game, about the players they have, and what they're trying to build in Detroit. And then the last thing I'll say is with Dan Campbell, when he goes out there and it's 3rd down and 5, and it's on the +50, you know it's 4-down territory.
Yep.
You know they're going for it. Even when they go in against Dallas, I said we were going for it. We got the penalty. I said we were going for it. I believe in my players. And a lot of people said, well, that's just not the smart decision. Well, I'll tell you what. As a player, you want a coach that believes in you. You want a coach that believes in you. Because when you have a coach that believes in you, as a player, you put a little extra on the line. You put a little bit of that extra of your rear end on the line for him.
Yeah.
Because that's what football is. It is a business, but it is still a team game. And the teams that show that they are willing to put their body on the line for each other, to put their rear end on the line for each other. Dan Campbell's willing to put his coaching job on the line for his players. Those players know, hey, he's got the confidence in us. We have to step up. And it goes back to even when John Harbaugh years ago was talking to Lamar Jackson, and Lamar Jackson came to the sideline, and John Harbaugh was like, you want to go? And he's like, heck yeah, I want to go. And he said, when Coach said that, and I said, yeah, I want to go, he said, well, we're going. He goes, that just, Lamar Jackson in an interview said, man, it just meant so much that he believed in me. Yep. So that's what's going on. Dan Campbell believes in his players. He's truly passionate. It's not fake. It's not put on. This is who he is. He knows the work that they have put in all offseason, all training camp, and all season. He knows what's going on. He knows all behind closed doors. So he truly believes, because he's built this team to fight. Listen, you get punched in the mouth, you get back up, you smile, and you throw another punch. That's what he is. Bite a kneecap off, keep on coming. I love what he said when they lost to the Dallas game. And hey, how are you feeling? He's like, listen, I woke up, I feel great. I was more excited to get back to work today than ever. And now all of a sudden, the Dallas game, that takes away their 1st round opportunity bye. Well, you know what? They end up beating the quarterback, the team that they traded to, their old quarterback, by 1 point in a playoff game. That momentum might carry them on to the next game. And now they got Tampa coming in. It's a great opportunity for Detroit to go to the NFC Championship game.
Coach Dan Campbell, 2 thumbs up from Mike and Tank. And you know what? At this point, I want to thank you, Mr. Referee, for what you did in Dallas, because all you did was poke the bear named Dan Campbell.
Light the fire.
And we'd gone to a Super Bowl.